We turn our attention to the Murphy Show hotline, where Senator Marsha Blackburn joins us to talk about many of the activities going on in the new year in Washington and beyond. First and foremost, Senator Blackburn, Happy New Year to you. Happy 2024. I hope you're well.
We are well, and a Happy New Year to you and your listeners. And yes, indeed, we are hard at work.
Let us start with this disturbing story. I don't think we have nearly all of the story as of yet, but it is very concerning to me. The idea that our Secretary of Defense, my understanding, sixth in line to the presidency, was MIA for a good amount of time over the holidays. It's my understanding that he took leave for an elective medical procedure, and then Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin had to be taken to Walter Reed Hospital and put in ICU for a period of days, and the president didn't know, at least that's what we're told, and even his deputy secretary of defense did not know. Kathleen Hicks did not know that he was in the hospital. I'm certain that you've heard the basics of the story. What more can you tell us, and how concerning is it to you that our Secretary of Defense, during these very volatile times in the world, on the world stage, would be missing in action in this manner?
Well, it's terribly concerning to us, and no one knew, and supposedly it was an elective procedure. That's all we know. Somehow, for some reason, he ends up in the ICU. We do not know what that reason is. We do not know who is in charge over at DOD right now. It seemed that no one knew that this was taking place. And so you've got the president, the vice president, the national security advisor, the secretary of state, the deputy secretary of defense did not know that he was hospitalized or that he had been admitted to the ICU. But what this speaks to is it's really, Matt, it's like there is an unserious nature about so many people that are in this administration. It's the same thing we see when we're talking about the border. Secretary Mayorkas cannot tell you how many illegal immigrants are coming in. He cannot tell you what the bracelets mean that these immigrants get banded with, these different bracelets that basically, that's modern day slavery. You've got a Secretary of Health and Human Services. They lose 77,000 children, and they can't tell you where those children are, or if they're being trafficked, or if they're in a labor gang. You look at the way DOD has run with the pullout of Afghanistan, with lack of a strategy that is shared with members of the House and Senate about Ukraine, with a hesitancy to move forward with Israel, what seems to be an apparent lack of planning, not recognizing that China is an adversary, and beginning to act as if they are just another competitor. But that's what we see out of this administration. And you know, the list goes on and on. We could talk about spy balloons. We could talk about so many other things, and it's really frustrating.
Well, I mean, and you start with the southern border, right? I mean, it's one thing to have a conversation about the flood of illegal migrant activity happening because people south of the border want to come up here for work. That's one thing, and that's one discussion. But the amount of terrorists or known terrorists that have been caught crossing the southern border, the amount of illegal aliens that are known to come from countries across the ocean, is a frightening aspect to this. And the Biden administration seems largely unconcerned with the homeland security aspect of this, Senator.
They do indeed. And when you have a Secretary of Homeland Security who does not believe in securing the homeland and who will look at you and say, well, the border is secure, you can look at the footage of the people that are walking into this country, and you want to say, you got to be kidding me. How could anybody think that? Because you can see for yourself that is not accurate. And people, this is one of the reasons that people are saying Joe Biden's numbers are falling. They're continuing to fall. His lack of awareness of the economy, his lack of awareness of what is happening at the southern border shows you that they are not paying attention to what is happening in this country.
I don't want to lose sight of the Secretary of Defense before we move on to the southern border and some other matters, Senator. What oversight does the Senate and the House have in this regard? Because it feels to me there was a failure, and just basic operational failures at the White House that put our national security at risk. If the Secretary of Defense was in the hospital for 3.5 days, and we are told the president did not, no one in the White House knew. That's what we're told. Now, I have a difficult time believing that because it seems almost too implausible to be true, but maybe I should believe it. Maybe that's just how unserious they are when it comes to our nation's defense. But what, if anything, should happen at this stage to get to the bottom of what went down? Because if he did not tell his superiors, then isn't that on the Secretary of Defense to explain why he did not tell his superiors?
Oh, absolutely. It is on him to provide that explanation and to get an update on his condition. Like I said, who's in charge over there?
Right.
We don't know. And somebody has to be in charge over there. We would certainly hope that they are in charge and that someone has the Joint Chiefs of Staff is providing further detail to the different branches of the military. Those are the expectations that you would have. And it will be up to the Senate Armed Services Committee to get that explanation for the members of the Senate. But even before they have to go ask for it, now think about that. They're having to go ask for an update of something that they should have been informed about, but we only found out about it because of the press. And so Lloyd Austin needs to come forward and say, this is what has happened, this is what took place, this is who was in control, this is who had been informed, because to say it happened and no one knew is completely unacceptable.
Amen. I agree with you. Senator Marsha Blackburn spending some time with us on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You, Senator, championed open government and openness with regard to the Jeffrey Epstein case. You believed that any information regarding these series of lawsuits that needed to be on the table should be on the table. Anyone involved should be on the table, and let the chips fall where they may. I expect that you have some strong opinions about aspects of some of the release of some of the information that we've seen over the last several days.
Indeed, I do. And pushing to get the flight logs, subpoenaing the flight logs, the little black book, issuing a subpoena to the FBI to get the video footage and the information they have, finding out why the FBI has not followed up on some of the information that the victims, the survivors of this trafficking ring have given to them. That is going to be important to help us figure out how to break apart these sex trafficking rings. We know the human trafficking and the sex trafficking has become a $150 billion a year business. We know that the cartels are heavily involved in this. We need these records so that we see who Jeffrey Epstein was involved with, who he was associating with. Was he in contact with these cartels? How were they moving people in and out of the country and on and off his planes? And there has been so much protection around this information. And of course, you've got a lot of high dollar, high profile people who were pedophiles, basically. And we need that information so that we can break apart these rings. And Matt, as you know, this is an area where I've put a lot of work. I'm the top Republican on the Human Rights Subcommittee there at Senate Judiciary Committee. We've put a great deal of attention on how we protect women and girls from these trafficking rings, and how we look after foster children and protect them. And for us to be stonewalled and not get that information is unacceptable. So as Judiciary Committee goes back into session and as we meet, I will bring up again my request to subpoena these records from the Epstein estate and from the FBI, who seems to be sitting on a lot of this information.
Is there, to your knowledge, Senator, because my main concern, like yours, rests solely with the victims of Epstein and his minions and those associates
right.
and compatriots around him. So does the FBI have information? One would presume, based on the raids that they engaged in 2019, that they would have information. We're told, it's reported, and I don't know whether to believe it or not, that Epstein was using information to blackmail individuals in his inner circle. So what do we know about what the FBI has and whether or not there are active investigations directed toward individuals that might have been in that inner circle?
We know that the FBI has video footage. We know that the FBI, to our knowledge, has not moved forward on an investigation, an indictment, a trial of anybody other than Ghislaine Maxwell. And she is the one who recruited and groomed the girls and brought them into Jeffrey Epstein's orbit. We have not been able to get the details of some of the depositions and the information that the victims have given to the FBI, nor do we have the documents around any of those interviews that they may have conducted. All of that information is information we need, because we need to be able to break apart these sex trafficking rings. People who have committed these atrocities need to be booked. They need to be jailed. They need to go through a trial. We need justice for these victims. And as I continue to say, Matt, for me, releasing of this information is not about celebrity. It is about criminal activity. And we have human trafficking and sex trafficking at an all-time high. It is modern-day slavery. We have to get justice for these victims, and we have to put in place penalties and enforcement that are going to protect children and women and girls from this.
Senator Blackburn, I just want to put a fine point on it, and I know we're limited in time, but what possible reason would the FBI have to not move forward with criminal investigations based on what evidence we believe they have? And what, if anything, can you or the American people do to further these investigations and to stop what most Tennesseans look at as a cover-up?
And this is why I'm continuing to push for a committee vote to subpoena these records. We have to get to these records. Now, the other side of that question, Matt, is why did the FBI participate in creating this hoax, Russia hoax, that was a work of fiction, and they all knew it, and they did that against Donald Trump? Why have they protected Hunter Biden? Why are they not following up on the information these victims and survivors have given them of people that were involved in these trafficking rings? Why did Jeffrey Epstein die in jail? I mean, this is all why we need this information. We have to break apart these rings. They have become big, big money, big, big business, and we're not going to break it apart until we can find out who all is involved.
Well, Senator, continue to tell us how we can help, because we are on your side, obviously, and we're here to assist in any manner possible. And I'm sure the state of Tennessee is right there behind you as well. I know
something, Matt. If somebody has seen something, if they know something, feel free to reach out to us. They'll find us on social media at Marsha Blackburn. They can go to our website. It is amazing to me that there are people that have witnessed. And by the way, not everybody in these documents is accused of wrongdoing. Some of them are accusing Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, and others of wrongdoing. Some of them witnessed crimes and said nothing. And this is what we are needing to piece all this together and break these rings apart.
I'm glad you're on top of the story. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you again very soon, Senator. Take care.
Got it. Take care.
All right.
Thank you.